Welcome into another edition of the James Boyd Podcast. I, of course, am James Boyd, joined by my editor, Jim Aiello. And Jim, game week is here. We have
Finally.
survived. I know. Colts, Dolphins, Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time at Lucas Oil Stadium. Football is back tonight as well for the NFL in general, with the defending champs, the Eagles, facing the Cowboys. And I'm just excited to finally have something, at least on the next podcast, talk about that is results based more so than what we think could happen, might happen, will happen. It is all do or die at this point. And one thing I love about the NFL, every game matters. There is no load management. There is no rest days unless you do really, really well, throughout the season. But, for now, it is full steam ahead.
I'm with you, except that this time we're going to be doing a lot of predicting and making a lot of assumptions without actually having watched any football. So that's what I'm excited. No, it'll be fun. Like I said, I think this is the time of the year where we get to have a little fun, make some predictions bold or otherwise. Maybe you guys won't think that the predictions that we make are so bold, but these are the kind of things that you can hold over our heads for the rest of the season. I'm promising to go very bold on at least one prediction. I haven't told James what it is yet, so I'm hoping to catch him off guard.
Okay.
It's not quarterback related. That's another thing I was going to tell you guys that might excite you. We're not going to talk that much about quarterbacks. I know that there have been some Colts fans listening to this podcast and reading James's work over at the Athletic,
Is there
which has been
anybody else on the team? No,
yeah,
there is
I get it.
not.
I get it. But listen, the quarterbacks are going to make or break this season, which is that's just the truth. That's the truth of pretty much every NFL team, unless you've built a team like the friggin' Eagles, where I mean, Jalen Hurts is very good. Don't get me wrong, but like they would win 10 games probably without him. So,
Yeah.
uh, anyway, the Colts don't have that kind of team, so the quarterback play is going to make a huge, huge difference on a lot of the things here. But James, why don't we kick this off? I don't know where you want to start. We have like 7 or 8 different topics that we can hit. Do you want to save season record for the end? Let's start with the other one. You came up with this one. I like this one. Are they more likely to win the season opener, which they haven't done in how long? 13 years?
It's been 11 years. This will be the
Oh, sorry.
12th year if they don't win. It was
I was counting ahead.
2013.
Oh,
2013 was the
my
last
bad.
time the Colts won their season opener. And we'll get into who was playing in that game if you're very curious about that. And yeah, that is the last time.
Okay,
So
so I'm sorry. It was more likely to win that game or win a game in Jacksonville. And you, man of records and spans and streaks, tell me how long it's been since they've won a game in Jacksonville.
yeah, I believe the last time the Colts won a game in Jacksonville was in 2014. So it has been quite some time
God, there's so many
since this
like
happened.
ridiculous bad Colt streaks that every other team in the division has won the division twice
I
since the Colts have
know
last won it. There's
it's
so
so
many.
freaking stupid.
Yeah, the Colts are the only team. I'm looking at a graphic that our colleague Austin Mock sent us, and I should have looked at it before we started this, but it was has your team. I think this was a Fox thing. It was has your team want to see an opener in the last decade, and it's a green circle. It says yes, of course, and it's got 31 football teams in there, and then it says no, we haven't, and it's just the Colts in the middle. So, all right, James, are they? I mean, this is a good way to start. Are they winning their season opener? Because if they are, then this eliminates the whole Jacksonville of it all. So, tell me.
No, they are not winning their season opener because I just can't trust them. And I feel like the Dolphins, in all seriousness, have been questioned, and they should be, given the amount of talent they let walk out the door, and even some of their internal like infighting between Tua and Tyreek. Are they on the same page? Mike McDaniel's on the hot seat. Chris Greer's on the hot seat as far as the GM down there. So these are all valid reasoning, but I don't want to like completely dismiss the fact that they probably have a chance to, um, in my mind, still put up some points and still give you some problems. And I say that because Jim, and this will be in one of my stories here very soon. I have questions about that Colts secondary, and the biggest question mark for me is probably Xavier Howard. If you are depending on him to be a starter for you, how much does he have left in the tank, and how much will that be put to the test early in this game against the Dolphins? Because if I'm Miami, I want to figure out whatever I can do to make sure that he's involved in some action that is over the top. Now, safety help will be paramount, I think, in this game, like it is in every game when you face a team with this much speed. But man, if it is Xavier Howard and Tyreek Hill or Xavier Howard and Jalen Waddle on an island, Lord have mercy. I do like the chances of the guys who played football more recently than Xavier Howard. So that is where I kind of stand, and I would expect this streak to continue, which also leads me to my other hot take,
Okay.
which I've said it all off season. If the Colts do not win their season opener, they will not make the playoffs. It's as simple as that
Oh,
for me.
okay.
Yes, that's a bold, bold, bold prediction for you.
Man.
I'm kind of going off the rails here, but I've said that before the podcast, before the radio show. I truly believe it is that dire for them to get it done. And I don't think they will. I think that's where, let me think. I think I got to, yeah, I think that's where I'm landing. I just don't. Also, I'm trying to think. I'm thinking though, because the Jacksonville curse is also just one of the weirdest things ever. But I think I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with it. They're not going to win the season opener, but they will end the curse in Jacksonville. How about you?
Okay. Yeah. So here's the thing. I promise not to talk too much about quarterbacks, but until I see Daniel Jones play well in a Colts uniform, I'm not really going to believe that he's going to be able to do that consistently. I think this is probably the wrong time to catch Miami. Like they're they're not super healthy. They've
Yeah,
got
they're
some guys
banged
banged
up.
up. Tyreek's a little bit questionable. Yeah, they're a little bit banged up, but more to what I mean is that I think the season for them could go off the rails and like culture, locker room stuff could become an issue, but it's early. It's week one. Like that's not happening yet. And you're going to catch them when there's still a lot of hope and hype building into like they all think they're going to do well. The Dolphins think they're a playoff
Yeah.
team. You don't, this is just one of those teams I'd rather have caught later. For another reason too, Mike McDaniel usually brings some weird wrinkle to the season and his offense. He had the speed motion stuff. He did a lot of different things the last couple of years, particularly 2 or 3 years ago, but even last year to a degree. And usually the defense that gets him first doesn't know what's coming because there's nothing on tape for that. So Mike McDaniel catching him week one is tough. The defense in Miami was better last year than you thought it was. Now that they've lost a lot of personnel, lost a lot of, Jalen Ramsey was obviously like the biggest departure, but they did have Minka Fitzpatrick. They've added a few um, interesting defensive backs recently. Result Douglas got signed by them. I'm not sure when he'll be ready to play, but they drafted Kenneth Grant, who should be better and help Zach Seiler on that side of the things. And they have some really good pass rushers. So again, like those pass rushers usually get hurt throughout the year. Jordan Phillips, Bradley Chubb, these guys have a history of getting hurt, and they're not right now. So this is the wrong time for the Colts to catch them. So I don't want this to be a podcast where you and I agree on a bunch of stuff, but I think I'm with you on this. Even though I might take the neither is the answer to my question. I think neither streak is broken this year. I think they lose
Oh
both the opener,
no.
and then I think they go to Jacksonville and lose. I tend to believe in Liam Cohen. I think Liam Cohen is a good coach. I think he's going to get the best out of Trevor Lawrence, whatever that may be. I think that the Colts should have beaten the Jaguars 12 other times that they played in Jacksonville, and this team actually is looking decent now. The Jags defense is not going to be great this year, but yeah, again, I'm trying not to bring this all back to the quarterbacks all the time. But until we see things play out, and injuries and things like that, I'm going off of what I know, which is I trust Liam Cohen as a coach. I trust Trevor Lawrence certainly more than I trust Daniel Jones. That's who I'm taking. So I'm right now picking the Colts, both of their ridiculous streaks to continue.
One more point about the Dolphins. I believe Mike McDaniel is undefeated in season
Ooh,
openers as
even
a
better.
coach. And I believe Tua, when he's been available, has not lost a season opener either. So that is something to keep in mind. So we'll see if I'm wrong. And, as I tell people all the time, if I am wrong, that will make my life a lot easier. Covering wins is easier than covering losses. So for those of you who might call me a hater, trust me when I tell you, I don't want to cover bad teams. So if you win, I will eat all the crow and I will certainly write that I was wrong. We'll see.
All right, let's bring us to our next one. All right, I promised not to do too much quarterback stuff, so we're going to get it out of the way right now. We've talked ad nauseum about Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. James, I'm going to set the over under on games that Anthony Richardson plays this season. Starts? I'm going to say starts.
That's fine.
Let's say starts. I want to make a quick change as we do this to what we planned. I'm going to say 4.5 games because Daniel Jones is
Ooh,
obviously the
that's a good
starter.
line.
He's going to remain the starter for as long as he plays well and remains healthy. I'm not going to give any more preamble though because I want to make you pick because I have a feeling I know where you're going with this and I have a feeling I know I'm going the opposite way. This is how when I say I have a feeling, it's because James and I discussed some of these before we started recording. But we're gonna pretend like we didn't do that. And go ahead, James.
Yeah, you can't reveal how the sausage is made, otherwise you don't want to eat it. So for me, I'm gonna go under. I do not
Okay.
think AR will start 5 games, which is basically what you're asking me. You know, 4.5. I'm gonna go under. I'll say that he starts 3 games this upcoming season, mostly due to injury. I mean, if he's starting a game because you've locked up a playoff berth, then more power to
Yeah.
you. But
Yeah.
um, I don't foresee him really getting a bigger sample size than that. I know that Daniel Jones throughout his career has had his own injury problems, and he isn't like the most healthy guy. I want to say in his last 6 years as a starter, give or take. I know he got benched last year. In 4 of them, he's missed at least 2 games due to injury, not just benching, and that is a possibility as well, given how his career has kind of gone. So, uh, my prediction is that Anthony will have an opportunity to get back in there, and as I've written this earlier this week, he needs to take full advantage of that and show that he can be
Yep.
a starting caliber quarterback. But I don't think that he will show enough to truly supplant Daniel Jones to take back the job, just because, from the looks of it, he's so far behind, at least in my mind. Because again, if you're telling us Chris Ballard, this guy has come miles from where he was, and shout out to my guy Jake Query on 107.5 The Fan, he kind of put it like this. Miles ago, you said Anthony Richardson wasn't ready. And then miles later, he still isn't ready.
Yep.
So that to me is kind of alarming. And again, when you lose your job to Daniel Jones uh, throughout the offseason, I don't know how you can kind of quickly flip that narrative or flip that script, especially when you're not getting as many reps as you were before as QB2 versus QB1. So that's kind of where I'll fall. But again, if Anthony can come in and play well, that's a whole different story. I just don't think that it'll be to the level of them wanting to make a complete flip flop in starting quarterbacks, which is what I think is required if you're going to go over the 4.5 threshold there.
Okay. So this is where I have multiple reasons why I disagree with you. First of all,
Well, you're wrong,
Colts
but
Colts flip-flopping on quarterback decisions is what they do best. So frankly, like this
yes,
is
the
sorry.
evidence supports this.
Uh-huh. I've read you enough to know that they can make all the firm declarations they want about who's the starter for the rest of the season, and then 2 bad Joe Flacco games later, here comes Anthony Richardson again. Lessons learned, everything he needs to know back into the game.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't think I to me this is a I'll call you. I'm gonna call you a sucker. I think this is a sucker bet. 2 reasons. One, I don't think Daniel Jones is good enough to hold on to the job for the whole season. Two, I just pulled up his game log just to make sure I had this right. Here are the amount of games he started the last 4 years. 10 because he got benched and cut. 6 because he got hurt. 16, that was the one good year that the Colts would love to tell you more and more about in 2022. 2021, he played 11. So when you say 4.5 games, that means we assume 17-game season. We assume he's going to play 12. In 3 of the last 4 seasons, he has not done that, either for poor play or for injury. I'm not betting on him to do it this time. I'm just not going to do it. He is not going to play well enough to keep the job. They're going to put Daniel Jones in here. Or, I'm sorry, they're going to put Anthony Richardson in here because after they've lost the season opener and after they lose the game in Jacksonville, Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen, the only way they're going to be able to save their skin, I think, is if Anthony Richardson comes in and plays like a franchise quarterback, or at least shows the potential of a franchise quarterback, because it's not going to be Daniel Jones that saves their jobs. It will only be if Anthony Richardson looks like he's showing progress in this system of Shane Steichen. Again,
That's
I'm not.
interesting.
I don't think there's any way Daniel Jones. Not any way. I'm not betting. I think the outcome is so low that Daniel Jones ends up being able to save their season, that whenever the season truly gets not off the rails, but like it's getting away from them, they're going to feel like they have to put in Anthony Richardson because, one, it'll be, he's ready. That's what we're going to hear. But it's really going to be about they need a change up because Daniel Jones isn't giving them enough, or he's hurt. And because if Anthony Richardson shows that he's enough growth this season versus what he showed previous years, they may have a chance to keep their jobs because stability might be the best thing for Anthony Richardson. I'm not saying I support that theory or whatever it is, but that is where I'm coming on this. Is I just don't think there's any chance we see Daniel Jones for 12 games.
You told us all summer, Colts coaching
Yep.
staff, that Anthony was improving. He was making steps in the right direction, and I ain't seeing it because you put him
Okay.
back on the bench. So I hear your argument. And again, for our purposes, it probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world because chaos is usually what sell some clicks around here.
That's
But
right.
I also just wonder, like, this is kind of how I look at my own life, man. When you want something so bad, like if you're Anthony, you want it so bad. People tell you you're one play away. What if this is the 1 year Daniel Jones is healthy and you're one play away for the whole freaking thing? So it is fascinating, but it's a serious question. And I think you make a very valid point. The best point, they have told us themselves that they will change their minds.
Yep.
And so right now, I know they're saying all the right things about Daniel Jones being the guy for all season, but yeah, if we feel any turbulence on this flight,
Yep.
oh baby, I will be
Best laid plans.
yeah, I'll be looking, down the aisle. Okay, where is Anthony Richardson?
Well, you're going to be asking, and you and every other reporter there is going to be like, if they go 0-2, 1-3, and Jones is struggling, they're going to get that question every time Shane Steichen walks to the podium. He's going to get
Absolutely.
that question.
And it'll be
So,
justified, especially if
yeah.
it's poor quarterback play that's holding them back. So we'll see.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the next one here. I like this one because okay, I promise. I think we're mostly getting away from quarterbacks. We'll do some season long stuff that obviously will incorporate quarterbacks, but the next one we're gonna hit is bold prediction on offense that doesn't include quarterbacks. So non quarterback related offensive bold prediction. James, kick us off.
My bold prediction for the Colts 2025 offense is that Jonathan Taylor will lead the NFL in rushing yards. Put some
I
respect
like it.
on my boy JT's name. He's a top 5 running back in the league. They were always going to be a run first team. The one thing that gives me a little bit of, pause is that he's missed multiple games the last couple of seasons. He hasn't really been healthy. He hasn't played a full 17 games in his career outside of his one All Pro season, which was 2021. And so that's
Yep.
basically what I'm asking him to do again. Can you get back to an All Pro level and ball out? Last year, he had 1,400 yards in 14 games. That is some special stuff from Jonathan Taylor, and I believe he is poised to have another big year. How big? We'll certainly find out. But last year, averaged 102 yards per game. In 2021, when he was, again, I believe it was first team All Pro, he averaged about 107 yards per game. I think JT, I don't think he's cracking 2,000,
Sure.
but I think that he can clear perhaps 1,700 yards and put himself in the conversation for the NFL's leading rusher. Rushing title resides in Indianapolis. And also, just one last point. I know that Derrick Henry's a cyborg, but he's got to split some of those runs and yards with Mr. Lamar Jackson. And people are going to tell me, well, he went off last year too. I get that. But then my other counterpoint would be that at some point, Father Time has to kick in with my boy Derrick Henry, who is an
You
alien.
calling it? I'm too scared to ever call it.
I know. He's like LeBron. I'm just like, I don't think I'll ever call it truly. But I do wonder again, football is a violent sport. Are you going to hold up for all 17 games?
Fair.
And then Saquon, just based off what we've seen, whenever guys go over 2,000 the following year, they usually
Yep.
don't have big years. They usually get banged up or get injured. So JT leads the league in rushing and balls out. Take
So our
that,
friends-
Mr. Aiello.
Our friends over at MGM Sports have him at plus 850. This was about a month ago, but they had him at plus 850. Sorry, I have an article. I don't have the current odds up, but it's the story they had posted. They had him at plus 850 to lead the league in rushing. He was third behind the guys you mentioned, Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. Well, it's a bold prediction. That's why you got to do it. But I'll buy the Saquon Barkley thing. I'm with you. The guy touched the ball almost 500 times last year if you include the playoffs. There's no way he holds up for a whole season. There's no way the Eagles should ask him to hold up in the way that they wanted to, even if he is quote-unquote healthy. So I get that one. Henry's the one that scares me a lot because I'm looking at some of the other guys here. Christian McCaffrey's at plus 1,000. I don't think they're going to get enough run and also health. Jameer Gibbs, he splits carries with David Montgomery, so I don't see it. Genty, maybe just because I think they're going to give him the ball 300 times this year. But it's Derrick Henry, man. Derrick Henry is the one that I think is the biggest threat to this bold prediction. He did rush for 2,000 yards last year. He never seems to slow down. He is a cyborg, as you said. Bijan Robinson is actually kind of interesting to me too, but I like it. I think it's a good one. I think it is actually. I think it is bold because people don't really bring him up in this conversation. They're going to need him to be the focal point of the offense, just like they have the last couple of years. They needed him to do that, and he's been able to respond sometimes and not others. But I actually like this one quite a bit. Okay, let me give you mine. I'm gonna give you a little preamble first. I think AD Mitchell's going to have a solid season. I think he's going to. I'm not saying he's going to go nuts, but he's going to play well.
I'm saying, where are you going with this?
I think Alec Pierce is going to have a solid season. We saw all last year. He played, he has a role in this offense. I think he's getting better, as some of you and some of the other Colts reporters have written, that he's gotten better. He's had a more developed route tree, more advanced route tree.
Hmm.
He's going to get more involved in that stuff. Josh Downs, big fan. Will remain a big fan. The guy deserves to get 120 targets a season and catch 80 passes. That's how good he is. Tyler Warren, big fan of Tyler Warren. Think he's going to have a huge role in this offense. Lots of screens, lots of short passes from Daniel Jones. He's going to be huge involved. Guy I haven't mentioned, Michael Pittman Jr. My bold prediction is that you're going to hear Michael Pittman Jr.'s name brought up quite a bit at the trade deadline, as the Colts might shop him as a player that they don't see as part of their future. They have young receivers. They have cheaper receivers. They have guys. I know. James is already holding his head here. I'm not saying they definitely trade him. What I will say is that I don't. My bold prediction, my true bold prediction, is that Michael Pittman Jr. is not on this team in 2026. Whether that's a
Okay.
trade or a cut. At the end of the year, he has a dead cap hit. If you cut him, of $5 million, or trade him, $5 million. It's very easy to get out of if you're the Colts. They're going to have other things they want to spend money on. If it's a new GM, they might want to reset a little bit. So if he's still on this team, I could see them moving on from him because they have younger pass catchers and don't want to allocate so much money to that position. He's also going to be, I think, 28 next year. But I do think you're going to hear Mitt Pittman's name come up in the middle of the season as a potential trade candidate for a contending team that needs a receiver. So that's my bold prediction. Is that it's two part.
Ooh.
One, he's going to be a trade candidate. Not, I can't guarantee he'll trade because you haven't really seen Chris Ballard sell, and in a survival season, I don't know that he's going to trade one of his better players if he's trying to win and make the playoffs. So I'm going to say he comes up as a trade candidate, and you hear him in trade rumors. And if he's not traded, he's still not on this team in 2026. There's not really a knock on Michael Pittman, by the way. I like Michael Pittman as a player. He's not like an A-level number one receiver, but he's a very, very, very good receiver that a lot of teams could use. He'd be an excellent number two. He's still a number one on some teams. We've talked about this before when they paid him. He was a number one on the Colts. He deserved to get paid. This is not a knock on him. I just think allocation of resources wise, they might need to move on from him, and they might have reason to move on from him. We talked about whether or not you wrote extensively about extending Alec Pierce. That's tough because you just drafted Tyler Warren, so you're paying him a first round. You're paying him more than most tight ends are getting paid when you draft a tight end that high. You're paying him more than most tight ends are paid in the NFL. You're going to need to pay Josh Downs. You're going to need to pay. You can't Alec Pierce if you want to on that side of things. I just think they might end up taking the Michael Pittman money and splitting it a couple different ways. Okay, I've talked long enough. What do you think of this thing?
You certainly caught me off guard because you were naming all the players, and I'm thinking, are you going to tell me that Michael Pittman Jr. is going to lead the league in catches or something like that? I'm going to think you're out of your mind.
Mm-mm.
You're not completely out of your mind, and I can see
I
your
went bold.
logic behind it. It is very bold, though. And honestly, it's kind of shrewd in a way, but also how the NFL operates.
Yeah.
Whenever we look at these contracts, man, the first thing I do, and I know you do as well, especially when we're reporting on this, is okay, when is the potential out? And that potential out is coming very soon. I mean, after this year, a lot of the guaranteed money that Michael Pittman Jr. signed for will be up.
Yep.
And so it gives you way more roster flexibility going into next season if you were to shop him or move him. Ultimately, I think he stays on the roster through the end of this season, mainly because I'm not sure this regime can get away with trading away
That's
Pittman.
I wanted to say they traded him, but it's just too hard to. It's just too hard with a team that's trying to
Yeah.
survive.
I
Or
don't
a
I don't I
regime.
don't foresee that, but your overall prediction of him not being on the team next year, I think it's a very plausible way to look at it, especially if you think Pierce can be a little bit more than a deep threat.
Yep.
And at this point in his career, perhaps he's more valuable, more bang for your buck if you keep him around versus having to pay Pittman again. I mean, this is his second contract. It was a very, handsome raise for him, but the thought of, talking to him next year about an extension at his age, given the fact that he isn't like a superstar receiver,
Right.
I can see why the Colts will perhaps want to move on because one thing about Pittman is he's reliable, he's pretty consistent. Given 17 games, he should get you 1,000 yards, but he also isn't scoring at the rate that a lot of these other top receivers do, and that's like one of
Right.
the kryptonites of his game is that he doesn't score a lot of touchdowns. So that is very bold. Ooh, you trying to
I
have me?
was look. I was looking through the offense, and I was like, you know what, man? I don't see him get. I asked. Here's the other. I mean, it's not even a bold part of the prediction. I think he's going to be game, like to go somewhere else. The quarterback thing. He's been through the quarterback ringer here with the Colts.
Yeah, yeah.
I just don't know if he's going to be all. he was negotiating the contract thing. He was, I think he gave you that quote about he's always auditioning for all 32 teams. I think he understands the business side of, his dad played in this league. He understands the business side of the NFL. I think a trade for him, especially to a contender, if it happened during the season, he'd be welcome to. And a trade to a contender in the offseason, I think he'd be open to. He seems like that kind. I don't get me wrong. I think he likes Indy and I think he likes being a Colt and all that stuff. Again, I'm
Hmm.
not trying to put anything bad on Michael Pittman. I'm just thinking he's a guy who understands the business. He's a guy who understands he needs heavy volume. That's the kind of receiver he is to catch a lot of passes. Because you said he's not going to score a lot of touchdowns. He's pretty good after the catch, but like not. We're not talking Tyreek Hill or Jamar Chase or anything like that. I just think he's a guy who knows he's going to need a heavy volume. He's an accurate quarterback, and he needs a stable quarterback situation, and he's not getting that in Indy right now. So I wouldn't even be surprised if he's open to the concept, which would make it easier for them to trade him or move on from him at some point.
Ooh, that is quite the prediction. I will make sure to run it by Pittman and be like, hey,
Yeah, you tell him. Yeah, you tell him.
let's see what you think. But oh man, that's something.
Uh,
Okay,
all
I
right.
like that.
Let's move on to the defensive side of the ball. Again, can't talk about quarterbacks here. Luckily for everybody here, nobody wants to hear about quarterbacks. So tell me what your bold defensive prediction is for the Indianapolis Colts.
I'm gonna say that not Charvarius, Cam Bynum makes his first All Pro team.
Woo!
How about that? He's
I
got the
like that.
new.
That is spicy. Except has he? Wait, has he made a Pro Bowl?
He's never been a
Even
Pro
one?
Bowler. He's
Yeah.
never
Okay.
been an All Pro.
Wow.
His
Okay.
last individual career accolade, if you want to go back that far, was
Yeah.
being first team All Pac 12 at Cal. I mean, is the Pac 12 dead? Isn't the Pac 12 dead? This was when the world was different. This was during the COVID 2020. So that was the last time he got an individual accolade. And I think that this is a dude who will thrive in Lou Anarumo's system. His versatility, having coming from like a, Brian Flores scheme over in Minnesota where they mixed and matched a lot and used him in a variety of different ways. I think that he will earn an all pro nod. I'm not saying first team or second team, just in general, he will be looked at as one of the best safeties in the league. He's been a ball hawk throughout his career, and I'll take the opportunity to get his hands on the ball this year. Hit my only like trepidation there,
Yeah.
Jim,
Yep.
is that I'm like, man, I need you to be off the field, at a decent rate. Every time these teams with bad offenses have pretty good
Yeah.
defensive players, sometimes your play gets skewed because you're out there for a lopsided amount of snaps. But I think Cam Bynum could be, a very good safety for this team. I'm not saying he could go out there and be Bob Sanders, one defensive player of the year, but I'm saying he makes an all-pro team and he puts his stamp on this defense in the way Lou Anarumo wants to play. Because keep in mind, when Lou Anarumo and his defenses were thriving in Cincinnati, they had Jesse Bates roaming the back end. And Jesse Bates, as we know, is a very, very good player. I know he's been a multiple time Pro Bowler, I believe. And I have to check and see if he has been an all
Yeah.
pro. But again, I think that is part of the reason why this guy could do it. And I'm looking at it here 2023, second team all pro. He was in Cincinnati. That's what I'm predicting for Cam Bynum. Second team or first team all pro on the back end. Boom.
I like that because in order to get the All Pro, I think what people understand about these things now that maybe we didn't understand that many years ago or didn't talk about as much. These things are popularity contests. And Cam Bynum's a popular guy. Like he
Yes.
truly is.
Yes.
People really like Cam Bynum. They know who he is from Minnesota now. He got big money in free agency, so his name has popped multiple times lately. I could definitely see this. And actually I like this one because it kind of goes hand in hand with mine. This is going to be the irony of the Colts
Okay.
season. As you guys have probably found out, I'm low on. I mean, you can hear in my voice and in my predictions, I've been low on the Colts offense. I think the defense is going to be way better than people are expecting or talking about right now. I think James and I talked about this before the podcast. I think the highest in terms of points per game the Colts ranked under Gus Bradley was 24th. That was the best they did.
Right.
So my bold prediction is that they finish twice as good as that as they ever did under Gus Bradley.
Top 12
I'm going to say
defense.
that top 12 defense, number 12. Yeah, top 12 defense in points allowed per game. If they're better than that, great. But I'm going to say 12th so that's a top third ish of the NFL defense. Definitely top half of the NFL defense. I think when Lou Anarumo had the pieces that he required to run his defense, that defense was excellent. I think that the Colts schedule isn't super tough, and I think there are going to be some defenses he's going to be able to confuse with just scheme. I think that there are certain like I think DeForest Buckner is still at the top of his game. I don't know how many more
Yep.
years they have of that, but still think he's at the top of his game. I think I was almost going to go with a Leatu Latu prediction here. I think he's going to take a step forward. The Colts need their 10 to 12 sack guy. I think he's going to become
I
that
think he's
guy.
the key to that. Yes.
But in general, I think this Colts defense is going to be able to send waves of pass rushers. They just have five, six, seven, eight guys deep on the defensive line. They're going to be relentless in the way they come after you. Without guys who are like, I mean, obviously, I think Buckner's on a different level. He is an all-pro caliber player, but for the most part, they don't have those types of guys. It's not Micah Parsons on this team, but it was what 2 years ago. Refresh my memory here, but they were close to leading the league in sacks with a guy, and nobody was getting to 10. Like it
Yeah, I
was
believe this was
Ebukam and yeah, Quiddy Pay.
2023.
Right. They were doing damage with waves and Taekwon Lewis and Dio and just a bunch of guys. I think that's going to happen again on the defensive line. And when you get havoc on the defensive line, you create turnovers, which a guy like Cam Bynum is going to be able to take advantage of. I
Hmm.
think Charvarius Ward is going to take a step forward and give the Colts the number one corner that they have needed. I'm not as scared about the corners as I thought I was going to be going into the year. Obviously, I would love to see this team with Justin Wally and see what he could have done in there, but I still think that they might have enough depth to get by. I like where Nick Cross is. Man, that guy is still so young, and I think he could take another step forward in his development. As long as Zaire Franklin is healthy, not too worried about the linebackers. Obviously, you'd like to have a couple guys behind him that you'd feel a little better about, but don't get me wrong, this is not a perfect defense. I'm not even calling them a top 10 defense that's going to wreak havoc on a bunch of offenses. I think they're just going to be better than you expect, and Lou Anarumo is going to shine, which is going to be tough because, well, we'll get here, but if the Colts don't maintain stability at the top, I don't know how long we'll have Lou Anarumo as the defensive coordinator of the Colts, but I think he's going to be solid. And the Colts defense is going to be much better and much more watchable. I mean, we've talked about this a lot, but like the way he's going to play matchups, the way guys are going to move around, you're not going to just see a static Gus Bradley type defense, which has worked in the past for a lot of different teams. When you do it well, it works. But I think the Lou Anarumo defense is going to be much more fun to watch. He's going to scheme up pressure. He's going to scheme up some really fun coverage designs that's going to mess with some young quarterbacks' heads. And I think they're going to finish, yeah, top 12 in points allowed this year.
Ooh, that is quite the prediction. I will push back because I'm skeptical about the cornerback room.
That's fair.
Yes, I know Charvarius Ward keeps telling us he's going to be an all-pro again. That was 2 years ago, and you know how things go in the football world. It's like dog years. You got to prove it. I think Kenny Moore is obviously older now, still a good player. I have questions about Xavier Howard on the outside. That's definitely for sure. And I have questions as well when it comes to Nick
Yeah.
Cross. Like, how does he fit in the
Yeah.
scheme with Lou Anarumo? So, with most arguments, we can poke holes in each other's, stances or perspectives. But I just feel like when you're talking about football, Jim, something always goes wrong. And do the
For
Colts
sure.
have enough on defense to withstand something going wrong? Because if Kenny or Travaris Ward go down, I'm looking at the cornerback room a lot differently. Even though they've invested a good amount of resources into that room. If Cam Bynum goes down, who's playing behind him? Is it Daniel
Fair.
Scott? Do you trust him?
You're right.
Like those are the things that I kind of worry about when it comes to football because we just know an injury is gonna come. And then even if it doesn't, when it comes to that linebacker room, I get that Lou doesn't want his linebackers in coverage a lot, but you know
Right.
who else gets that? Other offenses.
Yeah.
And Zaire, second team All Pro last year, as good as he is as a tackler, always among the league leaders, he's not that great in coverage. So, if you get him in some mismatch situations where teams are able to kind of exploit him, and Joe Bacci, for example, who's looked great in camp, regresses to the mean, and he looks like a special teamer out there who shouldn't be starting. He's only started 2 games through like the first 4 or 5 years of his career. Then I have questions about it, but I don't hate. And overall, though, I like what the Colts did on defense. Now it just comes down to what will it work or not. But I can't sit up here and say like I did last year. You didn't renovate, you didn't change anything, you ran it back. They did not run this back. They made some significant changes on the defensive side of the ball, and they're hoping, in the belief internally, as we've said, Jim, amongst ourselves on phone calls and even in my writing and you editing my stuff, the belief internally from the Colts is that if they can get steady quarterback play
Yep.
and an average defense, they'll be a playoff team. And so that's their goal. We'll see
I
if they can get
think
to it.
I agree. I guess I think if I was making a regular prediction, I would probably have them more at like 15, 16 in terms of points allowed per game. Like
Yeah.
I think they're going to be right around average, which is a big step forward from what they were last year in terms of points allowed. But I'm in bold, so I'm in bold prediction. So I'm
I like
saying
both.
top 12. Okay, I'm gonna we're gonna go to AFC South finish here now because we're gonna. I mean, I'll give you guys the little. I mean, we've been going for a little bit. We have a few more to go. A couple more Colts related things. We'll do AFC South finish. We'll do season record. Actually, probably should do season record first. Sorry, guys. We'll do season record first, AFC South finish, and then the big question about Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard, whether or not they are back next season to wrap up our Colts predictions for the year. So let's go to season record, James. I'm sure you've been asked this question. I know you've been asked this question in multiple different ways at The Athletic. I'm sure you've been asked this question on the radio. How many times have you changed your mind back and forth at all these places where you're asked for
Oh,
the Colts season record?
many times. I can't remember what I said and when I said it. So
I know.
I guarantee you, I'm going to give you a prediction here, and someone's going to be like, well, on 1075 The Fan, you said, well, actually, in your Colts piece, you said, forget what I said. Whatever you see, I say at that time is whatever I'm saying at that time. I can change. A man can change. And
You have until
so
Sunday to change your mind
I
on this.
know,
That's
I
how I feel
know.
about it.
After that, I agree with that. Once you get in the season, ain't gonna be no
No,
switching up. I don't care what
no.
happens.
You got to stick with whatever your last prediction was. That's it.
You got to
So,
rock with it. I'm gonna say that the Colts go 9-8 and miss the playoffs. That's my prediction.
okay.
9-8, narrowly missed the playoffs. What do you do? Or actually, no. Let's ramp this up. This is bold predictions. 9-8, and you make the playoffs.
Oh my gosh.
And then you have questions about: do you bring Daniel Jones back? Do you franchise tag him? Is Anthony Richardson now going to be your quarterback going into 2026? Do you bring in somebody else? Is that enough to keep everyone around? We will certainly get into that. But yeah, that there you go. There's my prediction. 9-8, wild card appearance for the Colts, and then lose their
Okay.
wild card opener.
Okay. Okay. I think you're on crazy pills. I don't think there's any chance this team wins 9 games. Our
What? No
I
chance? No chance?
our no,
8-9
I,
last year, 9-8 the
I
year
was just
before?
I shouldn't say no chance.
Yeah,
I
we
shouldn't say
right
no
there.
chance.
Yeah, they got a good chance. That's what the Colts do. They get your hopes up
You're right. You're right.
right there, and then they let you down.
You're I I'll be honest. I came into here ready to go 7-10. You might be talking me into 8-9.
See, and I can respond to you and tell you that is the most Colts answer you just gave me.
I don't believe in the lack of plan, the lack of any like functional system. Again, I was a big supporter of what Shane Steichen was going to do. I don't think we've seen it implemented in the way that I was thinking it would be. The offense, I should say. I'm not a Daniel Jones guy. I've watched it for too long with the haven't covered the Giants. But I do believe in the defense. I do believe in the supporting cast around the Colts. I think the offensive line is going to take a step back, but still be fine. I think the weapons are good, as we just talked about. So I will go 8-9 for the Colts. You talked me into it a little more optimistic. I don't know if that's not optimistic. It's still under 500, but I think 8-9 miss the playoffs. That's my prediction for the season.
Woo. That is quite the prediction. I can't really argue one way or the other. And I think we're kind of aligned in the thinking that this team will not just bottom out. I've seen some rankings even on
No,
our own site with the Athletic where it's like, man, the Colts are going to be, so bad. They're going to be 5-12. I don't foresee that. They're usually a competitive team, and they really haven't bottomed out significantly, save for 2022.
yeah,
Recently, that just hasn't been the case. Seriously,
no,
you
they're
go back to 2020. You look at 2021. Obviously, like I said, 2022 was a disaster. But then you go right back 2023, 2024. These are years where, yeah, you had a lot of dysfunction, turmoil, and you still found a way to be relatively competitive league wide. So that's why I think that it's going to be somewhere in that 8-9, 9-8 range. The question is, like I just laid out to you, and like you just said, Jim, is do you make the playoffs or not? Which I think kind of leads us to
yes.
the next question.
Are you doing the South, or do you want to do the Shane Steichen question? What do you want to do next?
Whew.
Because you already guessed. I guess we both picked them not to win the division, so we'll
Yeah.
save that for the end. We'll save that for next. So let's just get to the one everybody's wondering about. At 9-8 and making the playoffs, in your mind, is that enough to keep Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard around? Are they back in 2026
Are they back in 2026
without Michael Pittman?
without Michael Pittman? Your bold prediction. 9-8 make the playoffs. They're back.
Okay.
And Daniel Jones is back
Year
too.
10, Chris Ballard. No division wins, no playoff wins. Year 10. That's what you're going with right now.
They're back. They're back. No, I'm trying to like talk myself
It does feel
into it.
cold. It does feel Coltsy, honestly.
It does, but you know what? No, I haven't locked it in yet. Like you said, no lock in until season opener.
Agreed.
Now that I think about it though, and you just mentioned it there, I'm gonna say that's not good enough. I want to say that they're
Okay.
gone because in my mind, 9-8 with no playoff victory. If you had gone 9-8, kind of similar to how the Giants did it. Seriously, with Daniel Jones
Yep.
2022, I believe they only won 9 games in the regular season, but then they
9-7-1.
won.
Yep.
Yeah, they won a playoff game, and that kind of changed everything, at least in their minds, as far as paying Daniel Jones, what their future might look like.
Yep.
So 9-8 without that extra playoff win, which in the Colts case will be that first playoff win since 2018. I don't think that's enough to keep everybody back. And I think Carly Ursay Gordon does not have the same level of affinity or love for Chris Ballard. I'm not saying like love as far as personal relationship. I'm sure she loves him as a human being. They've been
Sure.
through a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
together, just, dealing with her father and running the team and just years of being, friendly and cordial, all those things. I'm sure it's probably deeper than that, having seeing somebody run your team on a day-to-day basis. However, we all know that Jim Irsay almost had like this blind love for Chris Ballard, comparing him to Michael Jordan and the 6 rings and all this stuff. But he is not that. He has not accomplished enough. And Carly Ursay Gordon kind of put us all on notice, Jim, in her first public comments after her father's death during that press conference when she met with the other two daughters. And she said, they know it's not good enough. They know this is not our standard. They, meaning Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen. So I don't think that either would survive a 9-8 finish and missing the playoffs, or I'm sorry, making the playoffs,
Yep.
because that is still a relatively empty season.
I think I think you're right. I think you're dead on this. I just get the feeling, and again, I don't know Carly Ursay. I covered the team while she was obviously around the Colts, but I happened to be in the same room with her a few times. Don't know her, so let me just set that as my little setup of this. I just get the feeling with her that she wants a little bit to put her own stamp on things. That she's going to want. It's her team, her and her sister's team, I should say, as they move forward. And Chris Ballard is her dad's team. And so short of, and I think she truly does have high expectations and expects this team to win. So the barometers I've put in my head, this has been within the last like week. I think they either have to win the division or win a playoff game. I think those are the only one or the other. You can get the wild card, win a playoff game, or win the division and lose a playoff game. I think if they win the division or win a playoff game, they're back. Short of that, I think they're gone. And short of that, with a one caveat of
Okay.
Anthony Richardson comes in halfway through the season and looks like a freaking star. Like that, I get because then they're just going to be like, okay, we didn't win a playoff game or we didn't win the division, but
But look what else we
Richardson,
got you.
right, which Richardson looks great. So but I don't see that happening. Like I don't. That doesn't seem like an outcome that would be feasible. So I'm going with 8 and 9 on the season. I think they're both gone. I think Carly Ursay wants to start this, not blow it up, but start things over, with maybe her own people and way of looking at things. I think this is just a suspicion. I think it's more just the way a lot of new owners or GMs come in is just they want to do it their own way with their own people, the people they hire, they believe in, they put in place. They don't want to inherit a lot of the time. So
Yeah.
this is obviously a different situation because she inherited the team from her dad. Um, but that's kind of the feeling I can't shake. So I think, barring a playoff win or a division win, they're not making they're not coming back next year. I think this will be the end unless they do that.
One more point to make on that. I do think if this is the case, and to make this very clear, this is not Jim and I saying fire these guys right now. We're just saying,
No,
hey, if the results aren't there, then you might have decisions to make. But I will never personally. We've talked about this, Jim, behind the scenes. Like it's not our place to necessarily advocate for someone to lose their job. I mean, this isn't,
no,
you
that
know,
was me saying that.
the real world we're talking about. We're talking about football. But if those two are gone, I think the quarterback is gone too. Anthony
Yeah,
Richardson. I think you
for
trade
sure.
him, get some draft capital. I think he would probably welcome that in that scenario to get a fresh start, a do over, perhaps somewhere else. We've seen it work out for other places for certain guys. And that to me is like the one little other caveat is that if those two guys are gone, most GMs, most head coaches will probably want to start over with their own guy. And given the situation in Indianapolis, given AR's track record of injuries, inaccuracy, questions about his maturity, I don't think that another coach or GM want to put up with that if they can think, you know what, let's just draft our own guy and start over, or
Yeah,
let's just go out and get another quarterback. Might not draft them, but somebody that we don't have to deal with these problems that perhaps we weren't too fond of anyway. Granted, we weren't involved in the process to bring him here. So whenever you're not involved in the process of bringing a player here, I'm always skeptical about how the next regime feels about that player if they aren't like an all pro. Obviously, no one's going to
yeah.
be upset if Bernard Ryman's left tackle for the next 3 years and you change
No,
GMs.
it's
He
one of
was
the
a
reasons you
good
take the
player.
job.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
very good player. People know that. But question marks around players, those are the players where it's less easier to predict, obviously, how a new regime will react to them.
I agree. I think if this plays out the way that I've predicted or you've predicted, Richardson's gone, and it's tough because I've been. I think again, this is not surprising anyone who listens to this podcast regularly. I've been the Anthony Richardson. I still believe it's in there, still defender, but like if I'm trying to predict the most likely outcomes of how this all happens, I think if it clicks for Richardson, it's probably not going to be in Indianapolis. That's just which is frustrating and
Yeah.
tough and sad or whatever word you want to use, but like the way things have set up and gone so far, it's hard to see it clicking for him here. I still think it's in there, but it's just the way things have gone with this regime and this team. It just feels like too much has happened already, and that if it's going to happen for him, and he's going to become the next. We've done this 100 times. Geno Baker, Darnold, whatever. It'll be somewhere else, like it was for those guys, right? It was always with a different team. So, all right. So, last thing we have to get to, which is not has as much suspense, is division. So you have them finishing not first, wild card. So I'm guessing second, unless you got three teams from the South sneaking into the playoffs there.
Yeah, I can't go with three AFC South teams sneaking into the playoffs. So I will say, as far as finishes go,
Yeah.
Houston 1, the Colts 2, Jacksonville 3, Tennessee 4. Mainly because Tennessee obviously is rebuilding with Cam Ward. You don't know what he'll be. Now, I do like his demeanor. I liked his tape last year, but there's questions there, obviously, like anybody is. And I think, speaking of pieces you all should check out Zach Kiefer's piece
Yes.
on quarterbacks and why teams sort of fail their young projects. And in a way, why a player is more likely to bust given the situation he's in. I think that's a situation where, again, you don't know how things could unfold in Tennessee. It's not just about talent, it's so much more than that. So their last, I'm going to say Jacksonville finishes third because there's more, they have more like continuity as far as the quarterback position because they know who their guy is Trevor Lawrence. But
Mm,
new coach Liam Cohen, I do like him, but I just don't know if it's going to be enough to, flip the tide
for
for
sure.
that team. There's some question marks there. I am curious about Travis Hunter. And then ultimately, I think the Colts are just, they're always right there. And again, going back to my earlier prediction, if they don't win their season opener and they do, uh, you know, win a game in Jacksonville, that obviously be a big one when it comes to the standings and how things kind of shake out. So, um, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. I said earlier
No,
throughout
yeah.
this podcast, if they don't win the season opener, they're not making the playoffs. And now I'm saying they're going 9-8 and winning
Yeah,
the.
you did, and making the playoffs. Yeah.
I know
I forgot.
exactly.
I should have
So
called you out on that.
I know. I feel like there's so many predictions and they're all running together. But and the first one is more of a joke more than anything. But
Yeah.
if they do get into the playoffs seriously, 9-8, I think that'll come at the expense of finally getting over the Jacksonville hump because it's not like Jacksonville's some juggernaut. They don't put the same fear in me as Houston. So how about you?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go I really want to do 10, 9, 8, 7 in terms of win totals for the South, but I'm gonna do the Texans win with 10 wins. They win the South again. I'm gonna say Jacksonville finishes second, but has the same record as the Colts. I think that happened recently. Did it happen last year? I
Ooh.
can't remember exactly where it was, but they did have the same record. Maybe it was 2 years ago. Um, I think it was. I think it was the year the Colts were a play away from making the playoffs. They ended up finishing third because they had the same record as Jacksonville, if I remember correctly. Anyway, I think that's what's going to happen again. Jacksonville gets to 8 wins. Colts get to 8 wins. Tennessee gets to 7. I'm a Cam Ward believer. I think he's going to be good. I think that's going to be a scary thing for Colts fans looking down over there in Nashville and being like 7 wins in an impressive debut season for Cam Ward. They have their quarterback of the future. Like there's a world to me in which next year we're talking about the AFC South quarterback rankings, and it's Stroud 1, Cam Ward 2, Trevor Lawrence 3, and who the hell knows for the Colts at 4. That's
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 a
where
very
that could.
real possibility. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's what they're staring down in terms of the AFC South. So yeah, I'm missing the playoffs and tied for second/third um, in the AFC South. All right, last thing, non-Colts related, just to get it on the record and just to make sure that you can brag about it later or not bring it up ever later again. Give me your quick Super Bowl prediction, and I should tease and be a good company man here and say the Athletic had their staff predictions up. James had his predictions in there. I think you were quoted a couple of times on yours. Staff predictions up on the Athletic. You can see who we predicted to win MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, first coach fired, which I told you guys Shane Steichen. I didn't vote for Shane Steichen. I don't know if you did. I didn't
I
vote for Shane
didn't.
Steichen.
I voted
I
for
didn't
Mike
either.
McDaniel.
I voted for Brian Dable. But again, I don't think there's a good choice here. Either way, Shane Steichen won, despite the fact that James and I didn't vote for him. And by won, I mean lost, I guess, in this. Um, so, yeah. So, anyway, check it out. There's a lot of good predictions there, a lot of good explanations as to why people voted the way they did. But, James, I bought you enough time now. Give me your Super Bowl prediction for the season.
Ravens, Lions.
Okay.
Ravens win the Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson finally wins the coveted Super Bowl championship, Super Bowl title, and his Hall of Fame career is stamped. Right now, that is the biggest knock on Lamar Jackson, as is with most great quarterbacks. But with him, it's you haven't been there. Dan Marino actually got to one. I never made it back, but he got to one. I think
Good
if
call.
Lamar gets to that stage, he'll win it. And it also would be really cool because he's such a unique player and also unique personality. Because Lamar isn't necessarily like this like cookie cutter quarterback when it comes to answers, how he carries himself. He is uniquely himself. He's got tattoos, got the braids. He's got still got a little bit of that Florida like twang in his voice, and he is the ultimate competitor and one of the best football players I think ever. To play in that league, to obviously grace this earth, and that is high praise. But also with high praise comes high expectations. He's been a bit of a playoff letdown throughout his career. I think that's a very fair statement. He has not performed to the level that we've seen in the regular season. This is the year when you finally break through and get it done over a Detroit Lions team, which also breaks through to get to the Super Bowl. I know everyone's like, Ben Johnson's gone. He ain't playing. I know he's calling plays and all of that, and he's a great play caller. He still ain't playing. I think JMO, is going to have a huge season for the Lions. I believe, Dan Campbell can still galvanize his troops. Aiden Hutchinson's back healthy this year. That team is loaded with talent. Amon-Ra St. Brown can go on and on and on. I think they get it out, the NFC, but they're going to run into Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson is going to run over them. There you go.
I like it. You and I have the same Super Bowl champion. I picked the Ravens as well. I think
Okay.
this is the year they get over the hump. I think they beat the Ravens. I mean, I'm sorry. I think they beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, so the Chiefs keep their fun AFC Championship game appearance streak alive. It'll be eight,
Okay.
eight in a row for them going to the AFC Championship game, which is insane. But I do think this is the year. I think like you said, Lamar Jackson. It's the last thing, man. He's got the two MVPs. He probably should have three, to be honest with you. Again, no knock on Josh Allen, but I think I think it was a little voter fatigue that got into the way of Lamar winning the MVP again last year. So I think he's going to do it. I think they're going to finally push it over the top. I think he's going to get his championship. It's a little Peyton Manning-ish, to be honest with you. I think he's getting into that range, right? Where you got to get past
That's a
the
good
Brady.
kind of pull. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
kind of getting to you got to get past Brady to get there. I think he's going to get past Mahomes and the Chiefs finally and get his first Super Bowl. The only difference with you is it's funny enough, I had the Lions up until a recent small trade that some people might have heard about. Micah Parsons went to the Green Bay Packers,
I
and
know, I know.
I yanked them out. I had the Lions over the Eagles in the NFC Championship game, and instead of taking out the Eagles, I took out the Lions and went with the Packers over the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. So I'm going Ravens over Packers. I think Jordan Love takes that step forward this year. I think they finally put it all together. They have that. They finally drafted a first round receiver in Matthew Golden. I think he looks really good. I'm not sure he's going to be special right away, but tons of talent all over that roster. Jordan Love's finally healthy. I think they put it, and that defense finally has that like just game changing defender that they've been missing. As a pass rusher, at least I know Xavier McKinney was awesome last year, but yeah, I think that's it. Ravens, Packers, Ravens, Super Bowl, Lamar. You and I are on lockstep on that one.
All right. Well, hopefully we can be more lockstep when it comes to some of these predictions because, as I like to say before anything is set in stone, I was right. Jim was wrong. I am 100% right now. I'm batting 1,000 from the field. If I said anything on this podcast that was contradictory, like when I said the Colts were,
I was gonna say
they
you
lose the
haven't
season
batted 1,000 in
opener,
this podcast.
and then, if they lose the season opener, they're not making the playoffs, but they will make the playoffs. They go 9-8. Shut up. I was hacked. I was bamboozled. I was confused. There's a lot of questions coming at me. But no, I hope you all enjoyed the podcast. And if anything, give us your predictions. Feel free to chime in, drop comments, respond to us. We enjoy engaging with you all. And obviously, we can't do these types of exercises if you all don't listen or subscribe to The Athletic and read the work. So hopefully this was a fun exercise for all involved. I know, Jim, you kind of came with me with the idea a little bit last minute, but it was fun. It was a good execution.
Yeah,
Anybody listening, hopefully they had a good time.
I was trying to think of something that wouldn't be a quarterback conversation, to be honest with you, and I felt like we did it. We talked about football for like an hour, mostly about the Colts, and it wasn't that much quarterback conversation. So I hope you all enjoyed it. 'Cause it's
Exactly.
coming back. It's coming back on Monday or Tuesday next week, I think is the plan. We're gonna be talking exclusively about Daniel Jones and nothing else. So just get ready for that.
This is true. This is true. So this is our last preseason podcast. We will have your post-game podcast coming up here shortly next week. And it's just as far as scheduling goes for those who are interested. It'll likely come on Monday or Tuesday of next week when we react to the Colts season opener. And that'll be our regular schedule going forward. So thank you all for sticking with us. As always, you can subscribe to the James Boyd Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And we will talk to you all very, very soon.